Um, Excellent. And it's being recorded. So again, if you don't want your picture, you can stop the video share just in case you ever speak up and you are front and center on the video. But otherwise, let's get started. We're going through a membership, or not a membership, a leadership transition. So it all feels a little bit strange, but I'm kicking this off as Mary Ellen Sullivan, the new chair. And I'll pass it over, I guess, to Rhonda.
I'm Rhonda. I'm the vice chair.
Okay. My name is Frederick Phillips. I am a master composter, and I help individuals set up or enhance their compost operation.
Nice. Very good.
I'm Savannah. I learned about BkSWAB through the New York City Trash Academy, and this is my second SWAB meeting watching.
Excellent. Hey. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. And tonight we are very lucky to have Rebecca Martin as our featured speaker. She comes to us as a passionate environmentalist who has worked very hard to really develop grassroots support for really diving into some of the threats of our water. She's affiliated with Beyond Plastics as the Director of Community Partnerships and Government Affairs. I'm sorry, I'm just double checking. And she has also been a founder of Kingston Citizens.org, where she led a successful campaign to block a national water bottle company's attempt to control local water in New York State, securing public oversight through a landmark referendum. And as executive director of the Kingston Land Trust, she created a nationally recognized urban land programs preserving open spaces and empowering communities. She also co-founded the Hudson 7, a regional intermunicipal council safeguarding drinking water for more than 100,000 people. And for tonight, she is speaking from the role of project manager as a groundbreaking report on landfill leachate pollution, which uncovered regulatory gaps contaminating the Hudson and Mohawk Rivers, vital drinking sources. And she's like, what is it, a quadruple, or I don't even know how many threats. She's also a musician and has published multiple albums. So we are very happy to have you with us today. Rebecca, we kind of let you take it from here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And I come to you via Rhonda, who I met through Zero Waste New York, which launched maybe a year and a half ago, which is now a statewide coalition. So I'm really happy to meet you all, and thank you for your service. Shall we just get started with the project? Yeah. All right. One thing if you don't mind my saying before we begin, I know we have limited time, but because I do wear a lot of hats, one of them is, and was mentioned, is Beyond Plastics. And I know that you've all submitted letters to the state in support of PREA, the Packaging Reduction and Recycling Infrastructure Act. And I just wanted to let you know that your Assemblywoman Chandler Waterman is still a no vote at the moment, but that Community Board 16 passed a resolution also in support, which I believe it is in her district. And I just wanted to make you aware of that. It's the update since PREA passed through the Senate last week. I don't know where you all land on that. It seems like you're in support of PREA, but I just wanted to bring that update into you because I just finished my Beyond Plastics Day. So thanks for that. Happy to answer any questions you might have with leachate and also on PREA. You can go to the next slide. Yep. So I'm Rebecca Martin. I live in the city of Kingston. I lived in Brooklyn for a long time, and I'm from the state of Maine. And lived in New York City for a decade or so before moving upstate. So now I'm in the Mid-Hudson Valley with my family, and I'm the project manager of the Hudson and Mohawk Rivers Leachate Collaborative. And we thank you for hosting us. And as stated, I'm also a founding member of Zero Waste New York, a resident of Kingston, where I've been doing grassroots organizing for a long time. And recently, we were able to get Ulster County to focus on a zero waste implementation plan. They were looking at a landfill, but out of context with all of the things to get to zero waste by 2050. And so they are doing a deep dive and a timeline that will be public facing to help the communities in Ulster County to support the county's efforts to become a zero waste county. And we're hoping to make composting mandatory in the county as we proceed. I'm the Source Water Protection Coordinator of the Hudson River Drinking Water Intermunicipal Council. I've been with them for 8 years, and they just recently celebrated their seventh anniversary processing, treating Hudson River. The Hudson River is a drinking water source for 7 communities in 2 counties, and the Director of Community Partnerships and Trainings for Beyond Plastics. How I do that? I'm a consultant. So I like moving around and doing work and going wherever I'm needed. So I work it out so that I can be useful. And I love this team, and I'm very excited to share the work of the team. Next slide. So our team consists of, I was at Hudson River Keeper for 7 years, and I started in the water quality program before becoming the Director of Community Partnerships there, where we developed a watershed-wide geographic grassroots organizing platform for Riverkeeper. And I worked with Jen Epstein directly, who was in the water quality program with me. She's a scientist. And so she's an important part of this project. She lives in Africa right now with her family. So we've been every week later in the day and to keep this work moving forward. So in 2023, when we both left Riverkeeper, we started to collaborate regularly because we had heard about this problem of leachate and its delivery to sewage treatment plants with the assumption, I think, that it was being treated, and it isn't. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Captain John Lipscomb, who has been at Riverkeeper for over 20 years, and on the river in his patrol boat, he actually just retired, had been talking about this problem, and we just weren't able to work on it at Riverkeeper. So when we were independent, we were able to pick it up. And John is a technical advisor and advocacy, or a technical and advocacy advisor. We were recently joined by Maureen Cunningham, who has served as the executive director of the Hudson River Watershed Alliance. She was the chief strategy officer and director of EPIC, the water at the Environmental Policy Innovation Center. She's also a town board member in the town of Bethlehem, just north of where I am now. So our team, we have a fiscal sponsor, Good Work Institute, and Pace Environmental Litigation Clinic has been doing legal work for us throughout this process. And so together we bring 50 years of experience protecting the Hudson River and its tributaries. Next. So the results, we started in 2023. It took us several years to get this report done, but we released this report in December of 2024, right at the day after actually, following the 50th anniversary of the Safe Drinking Water Act. So that was pretty significant. And there's a lot going on since its release, and you can find out more. This is a QR code for the report. So it takes you directly to the report, which is really, really easy to read. It's long, it's 40 pages. And a lot of the flows and maybe what you'll be interested in is in the appendix at the end, just FYI. And our website, leachateloophole.org, is always available with lots of information. Next. So when we started this project, there were just 3 of us, and we didn't want to call ourselves a coalition without, engaging partners. So we started off as a collaborative. And we've transitioned now since the report is out as a coalition, and we're building out partners and organizations. And we meet monthly, and we've been taking on topics and bringing in experts on a monthly basis to talk about things like on-site treatment, current treatment technologies, what exists, what doesn't, rulemaking, which we'll talk a little bit more, which is one of the opportunities for communities right now. And we're taking a little break, but we're going to start talking more about the precautionary principle. And anybody who's part of an organization that would like to join, we'd love to have you. And so you can reach out to us at the contact email here or website page, and be happy to include you. Next page. So our project goals initially and continually to raise awareness about landfill leachate disposal and its impacts on communities that are relying on the Hudson and Mohawk rivers for drinking water. And I'll talk a little bit about that now. So this is a problem that's international. But where we are, let's talk about it nationally. This practice is allowed everywhere. And so to try to tell the story and to do so, to show the systemic problem and to be as holistic as we can, we decided to focus on the Hudson and Mohawk rivers where we are, and to connect the practice to drinking water so that we could get the public to really engage and care about leachate, which we'll talk about a little bit more too. A lot of people don't know what leachate is. So it's a standard practice for many different industrial waste streams to flow into municipal sewage treatment plants. And we've decided to stop calling them wastewater treatment plants because it kind of gives them a pass. It sounds like treatment, but it's sewage treatment plants. That's what they're designed to accept into their facilities. And raw leachate from active and inactive landfills is one of these industrial waste streams. And the public is largely unaware that this practice is taking place. So prior to this project, the scope and scale of this practice hadn't yet been summarized in a way for the public to understand it. And so we want to empower communities ultimately to better protect their drinking water supplies. So this connection that we're making from leachate contamination. And our goal is to share this information with communities, those especially as it relates to this report, that are using these rivers for drinking water, and for them to become aware and to use this information to protect their drinking water sources. Next slide. So what is leachate? Leachate is the liquid that is produced when rain and snow melt percolates through a landfill. And as the water moves through the mass of garbage, it picks up a variety of chemicals that are known and unknown. And this includes heavy metals and pesticides and a wide range of synthetic chemicals such as PFAS. So since about 1970, the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, has registered more than 86,000 chemicals for use in the US manufacturing and commerce. Many of them are petroleum-based additives that are used to make everyday goods more convenient. And for most of these chemicals, we lack sufficient information to fully understand the risks associated with exposure through air, water, and soil. But in many cases, we know that the risks are there, and that we'll talk a little bit about the precautionary principle later. I'm sure you all are aware of these things, but it's just good to set the stage for what we're about to discuss. Next slide. So I put this picture in because it's difficult to imagine water more polluted than leachate or garbage water. And leachate isn't just a word, it's an extremely harmful toxic and polluting substance that should never be allowed to leave the landfill untreated. Next slide. So I'll reiterate, this is our project area, and we wanted to illustrate the problem, the bad practice, the systematic bad practice holistically. Right now, there's a lot of talk about PFAS. That's great. We need to be aware of that. But we really want to show the scope and the scale of the problem. And that includes many chemicals, as we said, that we hear the term emerging chemicals, and that this is a massive threat, and much of it is being released into the environment. And we focused on the Hudson and Mohawk rivers, as I explained, because they're drinking water supplies. And there's a number of sewage treatment plants on the banks of the Hudson and the Mohawk. So it was a really good starting point, we think, to start to talk about what the problem is. And as I said, you can apply this anywhere nationally. And we've been talking to municipalities and counties nationwide since the start of this project. Well, since it was launched in January on. So the project area includes the Mohawk River from Fulton and Montgomery counties east to the Hudson River, and the Hudson River south from its confluence with the Mohawk and the Hudson River south, through Ulster and Dutchess counties. The Mohawk is the largest tributary that flows into the Hudson. It's an important water body. And our project area also includes some areas that are not officially designated as drinking water sources by the state, but we've included them because the waters are all connected. Next slide. So these rivers and connected groundwaters supply drinking water to nearly 369,000 people. About 259,000 people use them as their sole drinking water source, and another 109,000 people use them as part of a blended water supply, and that's mainly in the Mohawk area. As stated, and I'll probably reiterate some of these things because I know I need to hear them at least 3 times sometimes. So this area and this bad practice, we chose to connect it to drinking water to show how the leachate loophole directly impacts people's health and the environment. Next slide. So the methodology for our report, we set out to map the flows of landfill leachate into municipal sewage treatment plants. And we collected data on leachate flows from municipalities through FOILs, Freedom of Information requests. And we also utilized information from landfill compliance reports to check that data. We compiled data for the years 2019 through 2023, and we chose this time range because 2023 was the most current year with the data available at the time we began this work. And then we went back to 2029 that gave us a 5-year window. In addition to the volumes, we track the fees that are collected by municipal sewer authorities and identify drinking water intakes downstream of the sewage treatment plants and the municipalities that they supply. And the fees are pennies per gallon. It's just the cheapest way of getting rid of leachate for the landfills that you could imagine. Next slide. So the big picture takeaway is that on average, 89 million gallons of raw leachate are passed through municipal sewage treatment plants into the Hudson and Mohawk rivers every year. 58 million gallons of this go into the Hudson River and just in our project area, right? And 31 million gallons go into the Mohawk River. The vast majority of this leachate comes from active landfills at 78 million gallons, and the remaining 11 million gallons come from inactive or closed landfills. Next slide. So what is the leachate loophole? So modern landfills must take extensive measures to contain and collect leachate to keep it out of the neighboring ground and surface water. And the standard practice is for leachate to be trucked or piped to any municipal sewage treatment plant that will take it. So if a landfill wants to release the leachate nearby, it needs to get a permit from the state to do that. And it's a lot of effort. And so the loophole is that once it's put into a truck and sent away, the landfill is no longer responsible for it. So many people have assumed that municipal sewage treatment plants are capable of treating leachate, and that leachate is made safe by passing through a sewage treatment plant, which is also governed by a permit. We'll talk about that in a little bit. However, it's just not true. And sewage treatment plants, because they're designed to handle human waste, they're not equipped to remove toxic chemicals found in leachate. And there are studies, and we've linked them inside of the report. There's a study from Michigan that actually did a study on PFAS chemicals entering into the sewage treatment plants, and that the result of the interaction with the biological, the BOD, the disinfectants in the treatment plants actually creates more PFAS in the effluent. So there's more PFAS going out than there is coming in. It's a really interesting study that you can find in the report. Next slide. So what is the leachate loophole? So we coined the phrase leachate loophole to describe how toxic landfill leachate that is not allowed to be released directly from landfills, but is allowed to pass through sewage treatment plants and into rivers, and is a way of hopefully helping people to understand. It's an easy way to remember the leachate loophole, the problem. And the loophole shamefully enables the continual pollution of our waters. Next slide. So now I'm going to go into a little detail. It's a little wonky, but I think it's important just to understand the regulations that are involved in the leachate loophole in the next few slides. And you can see here that there are multiple environmental regulations that touch upon leachate at various locations in its life cycle, failing to protect rivers from leachate pollution. Next slide. Am I going too fast? Is this a good speed for everybody? Can you hear me okay? I should have asked that earlier, but it's a lot of info, so.
It seems like a good pace. Yeah.
Okay, good. So the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, or RCRA, at the landfill is the first piece of legislation that we'll talk about. And it was passed in 1976 following the Clean Water Act in response to America's growing volume of trash. It had become clear that leachate could seep out of unlined landfills and pollute nearby groundwater and surface water. And so RCRA led to regulations that required landfills to control leachate by installing liners and collection pipes. So once leachate collection was under control, the question was what to do with it. Next slide. So the Clean Water Act at the landfill was passed in 1972 to reduce water pollution. And under the Clean Water Act, facilities that discharge wastewater into neighboring streams and rivers must obtain a permit that limit and monitor the amount of pollution that the facility can release, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. These are called State Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or SPEEDIES permits, that are governed by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. So if a landfill were to discharge its collected leachate directly into a water body, it would need to obtain a SPEEDIES permit from the state. And this permit would require some treatment to remove chemicals from the leachate, as well as monitoring and reporting of known chemicals. Next slide. So now we'll talk about the Clean Water Act at the sewage treatment plant. So nearly all landfills avoid getting a permit, as we also mentioned earlier, by sending leachate to municipal sewage treatment plants by pipe or by truck. Sewage treatment plants are required to have a speedies, but these permits do not cover the pollutants RCRA prohibits landfills from releasing. And sewage treatment plants are designed and equipped to treat human waste. So their speedies permits focus on indicators of biological human waste. They are not equipped to remove or break down the types of synthetic chemicals found in landfill leachate, nor are they required to. So whatever is not captured in the sludge or in some part of the process ends up going directly into rivers, into the neighboring water body nearby. And, sewage treatment plant operators are very proud of their work. They see it as a duty to keep communities clean by processing our waste. And so, as long as the leachate that's coming in does not interfere with their BOD in any way, then they'll accept it. And municipalities are paid pennies per gallon. And inside the report, you can actually see the amount. I think the highest amount that we calculated was something like 8 cents a gallon, essentially to just take this stuff and disperse it throughout the environment. Next slide. So the drinking water piece. So the Safe Drinking Water Act at the drinking water treatment plants that are on the river, like the Hudson 7, where there's 5 drinking water intakes, for example, that are taking river water and treating it for their residents. So the burden of treating this water when it's got chemicals in it, essentially, and ensuring that it's safe, falls to the drinking water plants under the Safe Drinking Water Act. This law passed in 1974 to protect public health, and it requires drinking water suppliers to meet concentration limits of about 90 contaminants. The act does not prohibit sewage treatment plants from discharging untreated leachate into drinking water sources. So the Safe Drinking Act places the burden of removing chemicals on drinking water treatment plants, which are often also operated by municipalities. And in most cases, drinking water plant operators are unaware that sewage treatment plants are accepting and discharging landfill leachate upstream or nearby. Next slide. So industrial waste is not gone from our rivers, it's just hidden. And we have a system right now that requires landfills, whether they're private or public, to prevent the release of landfill leachate into their neighboring waters, but allows this practice of dispersing this pollution back into the environment, and then requires communities who are using rivers for drinking water to bear the costs and the burden and the worry in order to make their water safe to drink. So we have these regulations that are designed to protect water at each step of the process, but the leachate loophole allows this illogical practice of leachate disposal at municipal sewage treatment plants. The system does not exist because it is the best way of doing things. It came into existence decades ago based on assumptions that polluting chemicals are safe at low concentrations and that they break down rapidly in the environment. But recent research and experience show us that these assumptions are incorrect, and regulations for contaminants such as PFAS chemicals have not kept up. So the adage, solution to pollution is dilution, likely came about when we're talking about, human waste in part. But it doesn't work for legacy chemicals that just, are dispersed and move around the system and bioaccumulate. So we need new approaches to managing our garbage, as you know, and we need our agencies to stop looking at this problem in silos and instead to take a holistic approach to finding solutions. Next slide. All right, so as mentioned earlier, leachate disposal is not only a Hudson and Mohawk River problem. In fact, it's a statewide and national crisis, as we mentioned. And when we first released this report, people thought that if they weren't drinking from the Hudson and Mohawk rivers, that they were safe. And so we've decided to broaden the scope to help communities throughout the state understand what's happening in their neck of the woods and in their drinking water supply, their rivers. And so as one of our next steps, we've begun to compile leachate disposal information across the state. And we found that active landfills alone, we haven't even touched the inactive ones yet, discharge about 671 million gallons of leachate into sewage treatment plants each year. About 40% of it, its volume passes through sewage treatment plants into Class A streams that are designated for drinking water. So we're literally poisoning ourselves so that landfills can operate cheaply. Next slide. All right, so solutions. So in our report, we talk about solutions. And this is an ongoing work because technologies are changing. Our partners that are coming in from different parts of the state have different issues. We're really closely working with Seneca Lake Guardians and Seneca Meadows. So the first solution, you can click. This is one of those slides, you can stop. So in 2023, when we were working on this before or following a couple of months of work, we learned that the DEC acknowledged this problem, announcing their consideration of new regulations or rulemaking for on-site, their words, for on-site treatment and disposal of leachate at landfills. So their consideration, however, did not materialize that year. And we were really hoping to get this report out so that when it does materialize, we can get more of the public involved and aware to take advantage of a public comment period. Additionally, in 2023, next slide, let's see where we are. Additionally, in 2023, the state held a stakeholder with only landfill operators to provide input. And there is a video and we do have notes on it. And I believe that it's linked in our blog, so you can see it if you're interested. So they only spoke to landfill operators, leaving out sewage and drinking water plant operators. Yes, so some of our solutions, just to get back to that, we are advocating for closing landfills. Next, increasing municipal, county, state composting programs. We know that 30 to 40% of the waste stream are organics. And I heard some of you are expert composters, so you know all about that. Next, please. Reduce single-use plastic waste. So I'm really happy to be approaching that, wearing a different hat with Beyond Plastics, with the PREA bill. Next. To apply the precautionary principle to chemical approvals, which sounds like a real heavy lift, especially with this current administration, but there are also things that can be done statewide, locally, countywide. Maybe New York City is already thinking about this, but with procurement policies to not purchase, chemicals that are found in cleaning products or what have you. There's a way to approach the precautionary principle to build awareness. And next, and to stop creating toxic chemicals. That's the no-brainer. And right now, the burden of proof is not placed on the company that's creating these chemicals. It's on the public to prove that the chemical that they've created has made them sick. So by the time a community is sick, then they also have to carry the burden of proving that the chemical and the company that created it is responsible. Next slide. So what's next? I mentioned the rulemaking. Oh, these are out of order. That's why I got confused. So what, it's okay. I'll just reiterate. Nope, you can go again. Nope, you're good. So this rulemaking is what's upcoming, and we've created an action on our website that makes it really simple. What we're doing is asking the DEC to start the rulemaking as soon as possible and to provide a 90-day public comment period. We don't know what the state means by on-site treatment and disposal of leachate at landfills. The only way for us to know is for the state to start the rulemaking and to release their proposed regulation so that we can review it. We can work with communities, we can work with lawyers and organizations like Earth Justice and Riverkeeper, et cetera, to make sure that that whatever the regulation ends up being is something that's going to work and stop the status quo and kicking the can down the road. So I hope that you'll join us. I hope that you'll review our report. On the front page of our website is a story map that makes it very, very simple to see what's happening without having to read the report, because we want more of the public to understand this problem. And we chose this rulemaking as an action because it's such a eye-opening problem that we want people to be able to do something right away. And that's why the rulemaking is a good action to take, because it's the law. We need to change laws and improve laws so that folks actually do what's needed to be done. But certainly communities and SWABs can also take actions that are important to them using this information, and we welcome input and other collaborations in order to address this problem. And I think with that, I will pause. So there it is. There's our QR code again. Oh, this is our issue brief, which is a great document. It's like a one-pager. That's also a good resource. And all of this stuff can be found at leachateloophole.org. And I welcome any questions. I'll try to answer them. Thank you so much for listening. That was a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you. That was really informative. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's super sobering, and appreciate you taking us through all of it and giving us lots of references for us to research more and
Yeah.
also actions to follow up on. But with that, yeah, definitely there are questions already coming through, and if you're open to it, we'd like to
Of course.
to the SWAB. Okay, great.
Happy to.
Rhonda, do you
Do
want
you want me
to?
to ask the
Yeah,
questions?
sure, that'd be
Okay,
great.
unless you want to. Okay. There's a question in the chat that was sent to us. Do you know of any disposal companies operating in New York State or anywhere else that own landfills that also own treatment plants that are co-located with landfills?
So there is an example of a treatment facility at the Buffalo Niagara sewage treatment plant right now. So in the Hudson Valley, there was the city of Kingston, following this report, decided to stop accepting leachate from the town of Hurley, which was a Superfund site. But honestly, whether it's Superfund or not, it's all bad. But they decided to stop accepting their leachate, and they had no place to go with it. And what they wanted to do is send it to New Jersey, which is what happens quite often, which is a problem. So we want leachate to be treated locally and managed locally, and not to send this out, pollute somebody else's water or communities. And so right now there are all these engineering firms that are creating these mobile treatment plants, and they're promising that they're removing all PFAS and then destroying PFAS chemicals that they're removing. But right now there's not good, it's a foam fractionation process. And so it's an old technology. It was created to remove peppermint oil from it's an old technology. Maybe some of you know it, but it actually, you know, we hosted, sorry, this is a long answer to your question. Laura Orlando from Just Zero, who presented on these units, and you can find that on our website, on our blog. It's such an informative talk about what exists and what doesn't. So right now, there's nothing that exists that removes all of the chemicals to make potable water, which is what we want to see. We don't want any of these chemicals released. And, you know, being in compliance doesn't help us either, you know, because of the cumulative impacts of this stuff over years. So, I think having these conversations puts this problem front and center. There's lots of great minds. There are some technologies that are underway that need to be funded. And so that's what we're hoping for. I hope I answered your question. In other words, there really isn't anything yet that treats this water to potable. And if the landfills are going to let it leave the landfill, then that's the expectation, I think, by many. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Another question in the chat. Are you identifying industries that are discharging various pollutants into the waste stream?
Yeah, it's a great question because we're talking about landfills. We're not yet tracking the industrial facilities, right? And that's they're blending this stuff. So what we did is initially is just we want to show you how what's happening and how it's happening. And that is a future project that we've talked about, but that's something we're excited to actually really look at because that's also an important problem
Going to the
to
store.
understand. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, also, has your group contacted the New York Department of Health?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually work with the Department of Health as it pertains to the Hudson 7. We're doing a source water protection plan right now that we were awarded by the state. The Department of Health is our technical advisor, and I brief them on this. And we've also reached out to the state to try to have a meeting to discuss this and to get their feedback. And right now, I think that the state would like this to go away, honestly. And we want them to own it and in a way that's productive, right? We want solutions. And, you know, this problem is a long-standing problem. And even when we look back to understand when this practice began and why, there's very little that we could find. Scouring and Pace has tried to do it with us to understand this practice and why. So to understand it better, so we can communicate with agencies better, but we couldn't find much of anything. So we do have one report that is also, I think, available in the site. So yeah, the Department of Health, who's meant to protect drinking water, is very slow to respond to this as well at this moment.
Okay.
I mean, it's a big problem. You know, when you think about what this is going to cost,
Yeah, it's gonna be.
it's a big problem, but it's you know, we can't avoid it really anymore. And certainly not now. But we're trying to build those alliances so we can. I mean, it'd be great if we could all sit around the table and just talk about it and start somewhere. But
Okay.
as you know, that's not easy to do. So, but we're trying.
Are there any other states that are further along, or is this really in the emerging status now?
Not that we know of.
Right. Okay.
Wow.
Great. Fantastic. There's one other question. Some people are asking, are there any legislators that are currently within the New York state body or even federally that are championing this issue? And do they have any idea or a plan of what needs to be done? Do they have a fighting or a game plan in place?
Yeah, great question. So we drafted legislation earlier this year, and I went in front of Senator Harcum and Glick and said, you know, explain the problem and And when I say I, it is we. We are a team, but it was me who traveled. Just FYI, it's always we, but it was I because Jen is in Africa, who went to the state, and we proposed um, a law that would be a right to know law, where the state would need to report on leachate. I think that for active landfills, the information is released every March. So we were asking for a report starting in April of next year, and it to be sent to every municipality and county and city in the state, rather than it's public facing, but to make sure it's in the hands of people who need to have that information. We also asked in this law for Harcum and Glick to tell the DEC that if they don't release the rulemaking by the end of this year, that they must release it in the new year. So we did that because we know that if the law passed, that the governor would have to sign it. So to start in January and ask for all of their reference material so we could see how they came to their conclusion. And we also asked the senator and assembly members to submit a letter to the DEC asking them to start rulemaking. So they did do that. They submitted letters. Senator Hitchie did it. People are doing it. People are really alarmed by this, but the legislation stalled because of everything that's going on. So we're going to pick it up again in the next budget cycle. And by then we'll probably have more information. So the state is the legislators, and there's only a couple of us right now. And right now, actually, we're all working for free. This is all volunteer at this point. We did get funded to do the study, but all this advocacy is just us trying to get the word out while we think about how we frame this to figure out, because we really want to create. There's no statewide organization that protects rivers.
Right.
There are Hudson River Keeper and, et cetera, but there's no overall look at systematic pollution in rivers. And so we're really thinking about starting something called New York River Watch. So between now and then, we're just out here working and doing whatever we can to share this report and these actions.
Okay. Let's see, just in terms of other ones, since New York City is such a big source for most of the trash, certainly that goes to landfills across the state. Just picking up on one question within the comments, do you know how much of the trash and then, of course, the leachate might be connected to New York City?
Yeah. So if you want, and I want to stay with you, but on our website, there's an interactive map.
Okay.
And the interactive map actually shows not garbage, but leachate and where it's going. So I'd have to get back to you on that. That might be available, but I don't have that right at the tip of my fingers. But I will direct you to this interactive map. And when you scroll in, you can see, and in some cases, which is no surprise because we send our garbage to Seneca Meadows, which is so far, but some of this leachate is coming from, this one source. I mean, Seneca Meadows is delivering leachate to Amsterdam, the city of Amsterdam. The city of Amsterdam, which is on the Hudson, is accepting leachate from a landfill in Massachusetts, Bourne landfill, which is a C&D and ash landfill, and it's coming 200 or 300 miles, away. So anyway, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I'll come around to that and follow up. Thank you.
Certainly, Seneca Meadows. Any other questions here or no?
Do you want to?
Okay. Should we go to Matt?
Yeah, Matt's raised his hand.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, hey, Rebecca. This is the second time I've watched this presentation, and it's just as amazing the second time around.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Just to give everyone a heads up again, Samantha McBride will be coming next week to the Manhattan SWAB to talk about where New York City's trash goes in gruesome detail. She's done a tremendous amount of work over the past 2 years on this, and we're getting closer and closer to more precise data on this. And so that presentation could be very informative in terms of a lot of which landfills are taking our trash, and then also which landfills are not taking the direct trash directly, but might be taking some of the fly ash and other ash components after incineration as well. So that might be helpful for next week.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Matt, for letting us know. Let's see, any other questions you want to dig into? I know we've used a lot of your time, Rebecca, and we really
Oh,
appreciate
it's not me. Yeah, I'm happy to answer as many questions. It's your agenda. Happy, I'm here for as long as you'd like me to be here.
to some extent with that.
What do they do? What
Yeah.
treatment do they do?
So there's one question from Vasil. What are the communities using river water for drinking do today? What type of treatment do they apply, if anything different from standard, based on the fact that this leachate is coming in?
So the Safe Drinking Water Act, as we mentioned, requires the drinking water plants that are processing river water to look for, monitor up to 90 chemicals. And I don't have that list in front of me, but you could find it in our report or online.
Great.
So, you know, PFAS is an emerging problem, and there's a lot of discussion about, you know, new equipment being installed to address PFAS, and one for dioxane and maybe another. And we know that the PFAS, the parts per trillion, you know, the compliance is decreasing, but we also know that the goal is 0. So it really doesn't matter in my mind that it's 4 parts per trillion or whatever, but municipalities, sewage treatment plants as well need to think about, and I'm talking as a generalist here, think about technologies as it pertains to PFAS, but I'm concerned that they're going to go and spend all this money to treat PFAS, and then we're going to deal with the next contaminant, you know, that arises that we learn about, or, you know, not treat everything that's moving through, that's even known, that's just not being tracked.
Right.
Because the sewage treatment plants may not be looking for it. So they're not even coordinated either. The permits that Speedies, you know, the permits that sewage treatment plants have, that they need to be a cognizant of, and then the permits that drinking water plants need are not even, they're not in concert. These are all
Right.
high load ways of, like, solid waste and drinking water at the DEC. I don't even think those two departments talk to one another. So
Okay.
that's the long of it. There's new investments coming, but I'm afraid that they're going to make those investments before, you know, they're really looking at the whole problem.
Okay. All right. Great. And just to the horror of a chemical whack-a-mole for treating our water. Just 2 more questions. Robert Sapper asks, is the list of 90 chemicals unchanged since the 1970s based on some of the things that you've referenced earlier?
I don't know,
Okay.
but I can look to see. I would imagine it has, but I don't want to speculate. So
Okay.
Yeah, well, PFAS, for instance, is new since the 70s.
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't know if I don't know listed yet. It might be coming. I don't know. I'm not the scientist, but we can find out for you. Happy to follow up. If you want to make a list of follow-up questions for me, I'd be happy to get Jen to look at those to help you.
Okay, terrific. Yeah, our notes will cover that. And then the final question, and it's kind of informative as well as a question. There's a bill now for a 5-year moratorium on spreading sewage sludge on farmland due to concerns about PFAS. How much extra sewage sludge is generated by industrial leachate being trucked or piped to municipal sewage treatment plants? Do you know? Like
Probably a lot.
a lot. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know the number. Sorry.
Okay. No,
But
I
you
mean,
know, the thing about sewage sludge, and it's nice to work with advocates who are focused on that. We need them to be, but we've been trying to make those inroads to make folks understand that part of what, and we've now been seeing webinars on this, that one of the most polluting streams of chemicals that's creating sludge is leachate. and
Yeah.
in industrial facilities.
Mhm.
So it's all connected here. They're not separate issues. They're all related. If we were able to discontinue delivering leachate to sewage treatment plants, it would be interesting to see the results. Certainly we can't, sludge is not, again, that idea that it's just sewage is not, it isn't. And it's really unfortunate that we can't reuse that material, but we can't. But anyway, leachate, not now. Leachate is a major contributor to the chemicals that are captured in the sludge
Mhm.
and that end up um,
Okay.
also dispersing bad stuff into the environment in our
Okay.
water and food systems.
Wow. All right. Great. All right. Well, I know that there was a comment that there was a NY Fed conference that had 10 sessions, particularly focused on PFAS. So, Kendall, if you can share anything on that, that would be great. And then one person commented that the list of chemicals in drinking water standards are changing. The number of contaminants on it today exceeds 100. So, to
Thank
some
you.
extent, yeah, there are some changes. So that was good. Thank you, Vasil. And then final question, sorry, and then we will really wrap it up. Whatever happened
Whatever
to,
happened to PCBs?
yeah, yep.
Great question. That is the main polluter in the Hudson for sure. Um, I worked on PCBs for a while when I was at Riverkeeper, and we've been pushing for an investigation of the lower Hudson. And that is still underway. But, my opinion of that is that when they removed PCBs from the river, they left millions of tons, in fact. And, it's like when you go to take out a cancer, you don't take out some of it. I mean, the system is going to continue to move this stuff all around. And it's so obvious, but it's, the EPA has a consultant working on this issue and organizing the community advisory board. That's actually open to the public. I think it's PCB CAG, and they meet regularly, monthly, or when there are actions. I would encourage you to just take a peek at that. And Riverkeeper does a lot of great work on that as well. And I would say if you're not on their list for updates on PCBs, it would be good to get those. Thanks for raising that. Yes, it is horrifying, but the fantastic thing is that we're talking about it. And I'm a big believer that, you gotta, I mean, we're human. We're always gonna, we learn the hard way, it seems, and always the 11th hour, but it's really important to be in these circles and talking about stuff and making changes uh, while we're here working on this and advocating. And I really appreciate what you do. And if I were still in Brooklyn, I would join you. So thank you for having me, and I'm always around if you want to reach out, and you can send, actually, this might be easier for you if you want that contact, leachate loophole/contact. You can submit questions there,
Oh,
save folks here a little work, and we will respond. And we have a FAQ, and as we go along, we actually keep adding questions that come in that we think are important. So your questions can help us fill out or to broaden the topics that we can help to share with others.
okay. Terrific. Thank you so much, Rebecca. This is wonderful to know and that someone's working on it. Horrifying to understand the extent. But we really appreciate you raising this up and really beginning the work to make some changes happen. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I gotta just answer this. So can
Okay.
we assume that New York City water is contaminated by leachate? No. You have probably the most protected drinking water in the world in your watershed. There are no industrial, it's very protected. You don't know about your water source, so I would recommend you become familiar with it. Um, but I'll say this, that the city has a drinking water intake in the river at Chelsea Station, not
Mhm.
Chelsea, New York, upriver. And the thing is that if you ever needed a secondary, or you have a secondary, if you ever needed another source of water, and there are issues with your Croton Reservoir and salt. I don't know if you've been reading about that.
Yes.
You could tap into the Hudson as well. So the city, it has a reason to care about this problem, because someday you might need, it's an emergency intake, right?
Yeah.
So, but you have it. So you're in the same boat as everybody else. That's what I like to really impress upon. It's like if one community is poisoned, then we're all, that's not acceptable, right? So, but in the case New Yorkers need to to know what their connection is, there's one. Beyond the garbage issue, there's one. So you do have you do have a stake here.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you very much, and thanks for spending the time with us this evening.
You bet.
And we'll be sharing out the links that you mentioned for FAQs and other kinds of things. So
You got it. Great.
this will be an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, thank you. And Rhonda
All
and Matt, I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye now.
Wow,
All right, excellent.
that was great.
Okay, great. So shall we shift now over to the main agenda?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where's
The agenda?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. Sorry. I think first up and always up is typically
Please.
turning it over to Lacey and asking for an update on BP Renos's office.
Hi everyone. I'll be brief. A couple things. You probably saw it in the news, but the containerization pilot in Harlem launched yesterday. Obviously not Brooklyn news, but something that we're keeping an eye on. We are wrapping up our budget response, hopefully this week. We will, of course, be advocating for continued support for community composting, more funding for implementation of commercial waste zones, among many other things. And I would just say that I feel that I can mostly confidently say that our updated comprehensive plan for Brooklyn should be out before the end of this month, I hope. I'm very much looking forward to sharing that with you all. Can expect more trash content than the last version.
Okay, excellent. All right, thanks so much. Perfect. Let's see, moving next to coalition updates. Save Our Compost would be first. I'm not sure, Sherry, is that something that you'd be willing to talk to us about?
Sure. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. We've had a couple of meetings, but it's been focused around advocacy for the community composting in the city council budget, of course, as Lacey mentioned. That's the big focus right now. We haven't heard anything yet. The budget hearings are still going on. So we are, they were doing some advocacy relays with calling city council members and things like that. We've been just trying to encourage everybody to make phone calls and let folks know that we wanted to continue. And then on the master composter certificate course side, because that's part of the community composting network, which is funded by this funds from city council, we've been able to all kind of team together and provide some programming through June 15th. So we've got that going until we hopefully hear something. And if we don't by then, we'll figure out what's going on. But there's a lot of folks excited and involved. So we hope that'll continue as well. So that's my kind of twofold update at the moment.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Sherry. Appreciate it. And next would be reusable NYC.
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, I joined the meeting last month. I think the big thing is that the Hydration for All Act, so Intro 900, the one that requires water fountains in a certain number of parks. I think, I can't remember how many it goes up to, but over the course of, I think it's like 5 or 10 years, That has finally has 26 co-sponsors, so the majority. So I think that they had sort of a call to action to encourage Adrian Adams to put it up for a vote. So that's kind of the big update there.
Okay, terrific. Thanks so much. Anything else, or?
No, just talked about some of the other stuff that hasn't been moving too much. So
Okay,
nothing new.
appreciate it. Next up, moving to executive committee. First thing we'd like to do, hopefully everyone got the May notes. And what I'd like to do, if we've got quorum, is to take a vote to approve the draft May general meeting minutes.
Beth, can you help me find out if we have a quorum? I think we do.
We do.
Okay, good. We have a
Woohoo!
quorum. Yay, thanks for being so fast.
All right, terrific. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to review. So at this point, if there's someone who'd like to make a motion to vote on the notes.
I move that we approve the notes.
Rhonda has put it up. Do we have a second?
Anybody?
I see Vasil's hand.
Okay, thank you.
Terrific. All right, great. Thanks so much, both of you. Let's take a vote on the May meeting minutes. For those that want to say yay and approve the meeting minutes, if you could all raise your hands. Great. Appreciate the thumbs up also, so that's good. I think Mark's got a hang 10, so that's good. Good stuff. All right. So let's see, how many do we, who's doing the vote
Beth,
count?
I think Beth.
Beth? Okay.
I counted enough.
Okay.
Okay, thanks so
All right,
much. So the meeting minutes have passed. Let's just for
You
recording.
should ask for any abstentions though, or any no votes.
Okay. Terrific. Do we have any no votes? No? Any abstentions or recusals? Abstentions, I guess. Sherry? Okay, we've got one for.
Yeah, I missed part of the meeting, so.
Oh, wow.
Okay. All right, great.
This is the last time you have to take them for a while. Good job.
All right, thank you. Lee will be doing this month's minutes, so that's terrific. I'm sure she'll do a wonderful job. All right, so next up, let's see. We also need to take a vote as to whether or not the SWAB would like to take have a July meeting or take recess, or have an August meeting or take recess. Right now, we have on the books a meeting for July 14th. So that would be the Monday after the July 4th holiday. So any thoughts? Does anybody want to have any discussions on that?
I'm gonna make a motion to take August off.
Okay. Any seconds?
Awesome. Yeah.
Bella seconds it. All right. I think that's a great plan. Let's take a vote on whether or not we would like to take an August recess. If you could raise your hands, that's terrific. And then Beth will count it up.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I counted 11, which is enough.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Any no votes on the July recess? I think so. Any abstentions for any reason? No. Okay.
Oh. Lee abstains from the time off.
All right, good enough.
Okay, good.
All right, I think that passes, so we're all set. With that, I'd like to pass it over to the Legislative Committee for an update.
Yeah, so the Legislative Committee just met last week. And we talked about two things. One was a letter to state legislators, very timely, requesting support for the state legislation mandating a 5-year moratorium on spreading sewage sludge on agricultural lands. So we're just cleaning that letter up it did get approved by the committee, and it will be sent out to the various swabs for vote, and then will be sent on to the legislators for encouragement. And then we also talked about another letter, which would be a letter in, I guess, somewhat support of the 6 pieces of New York City council legislation that have to do with various aspects of plastic. So there's, the testing and reducing plastic. So there's one looking at like a study on textile waste. I can't, there was one about banning, what do you call it? The turf, Marquez bill, the turf, there are a few others in there. So we're still working on that. We'll continue working on it in this month's meeting, and it'll probably go out to a vote to everyone next month. So if you're interested in that, come to our meeting at the end of the month. It's always the last Thursday. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to email me.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Next up, Outreach Committee. Mark, take it away.
It's been kind of a quiet week at Lake Wobegon, and with the Outreach Committee. Not a whole lot going on. We missed our opportunity for a meeting last month, but I think we're going to get it together for this month, which means June 16th. It's always the third Monday of the month. And I'll send out a notice a little bit ahead of time, and maybe we can get some outreach rolling again. That's the plan.
Okay, terrific. Hey, one thing real quick, Mark. I was pinch hitting on doing some social media. I think Miriam was doing a little bit too. I think probably getting someone else to help on social media additionally would be terrific. So not sure if that's something anyone on your team would be interested in doing.
I think it's something for the whole BkSWAB to know about. If anybody here has got some interest in helping out with that. I'm not sure other people on the outreach committee like Betty or Belia or Sherry, do you want to chime in on that in terms of getting some help on social media?
Yeah.
Well, we'll toss it around at the next meeting and see. Maybe we just assign somebody. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think that's great. And if there's anyone here in attendance that has a strong interest in helping out with social media, please feel free to reach out to swab.brooklyn@gmail.com, to me or to Mark if you have our email. So
thank you. That's a good way to frame it. Thank you.
Okay. Because it's actually pretty fun, and you really get to see everything that's going on across all the different waste organizations within the city. So happy to tag team on it. Very good. All right. And if that's it, Mark, let's move over to the Organics Industry Committee, if there's someone here that wants to talk about it.
I can talk about it. It's Allison.
Great.
We have our next committee meeting on Monday. We actually have invited Vicki. Well, we're supposed to be inviting Vicki Palladino. I don't know if you guys are aware of the post she did. Related to
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, good. So I encourage people to watch it. We want to respond to it a little bit. Maybe she'll join. The big agenda issue that we've been working on is the tracker that Jason presented last month, I think. And I know he was on the meeting. I don't know if he's here. But we have, in April, the capture rate for all of New York City was 12% organics, which is, that's up from like 6.5% in March. In Brooklyn, Bay Ridge had a 27% capture rate. Park Slope, 22%, and Bensonhurst had 20. Those were like the three that were over 20%. So we're in the finishing, like the finalizing stages of, this database that we want to release to the public and share. We're still like looking to stress test it, and I was going to send it out to select people on the organics committee in advance of our meeting, and a number of you here are on my email list. I can share it with you in case you'd like to like dig around, try to poke holes, see if you flag anything that looks weird, because we're going to want to make sure everything's working properly. We're going to meet with Samantha McBride in the near future. She'll probably be able to do the same thing, look at it and notice if she thinks something looks off. But we Jason, William have really worked hard on it, and I think it's going to be a phenomenal tool. So once we do have it done and out to the public, we're also going to want to kind of analyze it every month and share highlights. And I'd like to rely on maybe some of you in Brooklyn to help us analyze the Brooklyn results, because obviously you know Brooklyn better than any of us do. I will say that I shouldn't say this, but yeah, I said the overall capture rate for New York City, all boroughs, was 12%, and Brooklyn was, I guess, the third highest, 10% capture rate, and unfortunately, Manhattan was the lowest at 7.8%. So hopefully we are going to change that. We have a lot of work to do in Manhattan, but you guys are doing pretty good in Brooklyn. So I just, I know part of it could be yard waste. Spring April was, big yard waste cleanup, but would look forward to anybody's help looking at the data and sharing, what your thoughts are.
Okay, great.
Wonderful.
Yeah, can't let
Thank
other
you.
birds win. Yeah. Just out of a little anecdote, I noticed that there's much more on my street with bags in addition to the brown bins going out, and the
Right.
truck picked up the brown bins today had the attachments that automatically took the bins and put them into the trash, because they do get heavy.
Yeah,
So,
they do.
yeah. So that was interesting.
But they were working?
Yeah, they were automatic, and they were putting it into the trash or the garbage trucks. So that was great. All right, thank you so much, Allison. That's really terrific.
Yeah.
I know Jason had to leave, so you can reach out to him, or if you need any help with that, we can help you out. And if there's anyone else that's interested, again, you said next Monday is your meeting?
Next Monday's the meeting. I'll email, like I kind of said, a core group of like the active people on the committee to share a link to the database, the tracker, and you guys hopefully can play around with it and see if you think you can poke any holes in it.
All right, that sounds great. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Then
Then we'll come up with a plan to share it, with to launch it to the public, to share it with council. We have to kind of formalize and solidify a plan for releasing all this great data. I think it's going to be a great resource for the city.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I wanted to know, are you guys working on having the SNY reverse that no penalty on contamination suspension rule?
No penalty for contamination? I'm not even aware of that, I don't think.
You mean fines for not participating in organics collection?
Oh.
Yeah,
That's
if you don't, if you don't put it out in the brown bin,
Right.
and you put it out in your black bags, I thought I had heard that they were suspending any fines to a certain category of.
No, they did. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. You meant when you said something about contamination. Yeah. Fines were paused for buildings with under 30 units. Because those are the buildings where they're going to, I guess, ramp up outreach and education. But buildings over 30 units will now, once after 4 warnings, they will get a fine.
right.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And Lacey's putting in that they won't reinstate the fines for below 30 until next year. So
Is that the where the expression "be forewarned" comes in?
that's right. Yeah. No, there was some interesting pushback from the city council during the most recent budget and sanitation hearing, where they were asked, is this real? Like, did you stop the mandate? So
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
some interesting pushback, I think, from Salazar. No, Salamanca.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's interesting though that just the threat of the fines maybe is what boosted these numbers.
Right. And I think that previously they had stated that they didn't think fines worked, but it seems to be
Yeah.
having some effect, or at least.
Fines always work.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right. There we go. Carrot and the stick. All right. The events committee, if there's someone here, Elizabeth.
I don't know if Liz is here.
Yeah, she may not be here. All right. If not, let's move on to the NYCHA committee.
I don't know.
If
Is she? I don't think she's here either. Okay.
Okay.
So
All
let's
right.
move on.
Well, very good. At this point, let's open it up to general announcements that people want to make or an open floor discussion. We've got a couple items on the list. I don't know, Sherry, if you want to provide any more information on Master Composter, certificate course information, or other activities you've got going on.
Oh, sorry, I'm still here.
Excellent.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see that the link was in there to sign up, so that's good. Yeah, people can still, take workshops. We're doing a bunch of virtual workshops in the next couple of weeks. There's a whole bunch of events going on, bin builds and stewardship and lots of things. So folks can get involved if you'd like. And like we said, we'll see how things go, and hopefully we get continued funding. And then if and when we do, we'll have to see what that looks like and how that's going. But for now, we're just kind of taking it as we can and trying to give people some time and opportunity to finish their requirements if they're already going. And then we'll go from there. And if we have continued funding, we kind of envision, keeping it going and just seeing, adding more things. But for now, that's where we're at. So we're kind of in a plan till the end of June, and then but right now the cutoff is June 15th, because I need time to actually process things in my day job. So that's where we're at.
If you don't finish, and assuming it gets refunded, will it carry over?
That is my plan.
Asking for someone who would be
asking for a friend, maybe also you, but that is my plan. I think that's kind of everyone's plan, though we haven't officially discussed and made a plan. But we agreed to let it continue from 2022-23. So I do not see why we would change that now. But I cannot officially make that statement without discussing with the network. But I think that we had a little smaller group discussion, and that's what we were thinking to work towards, because life happens. Not everybody's going to be able to finish as much as they want to, or some folks just started. Some folks are just emailing me and interested in it because they're hearing about it now. So yeah, we'll make it work, give opportunities. So
terrific. Thanks so much, Sherry, and sorry to surprise you on that one. We always want to publicize Master Poster. So
no, all good. I appreciate it. We all do.
I think there was an email that was sent out from the SWAB, but we also want to remind everybody that there is an all SWAB tour of the environmental justice community that takes in and burns 10% of New York City's trash in Newark, New Jersey. This is being organized by the Manhattan SWAB, and we have an opportunity to collectively visit the Ironbound Community Corporation and get a 90-minute tour. So within the email that we sent around, there's an opportunity for people to fill out a doodle poll, identifying their preferred dates within July, I believe. And so if you're interested, please fill out that doodle poll no later than June 19th. And then the Manhattan SWAB will get back as to what is the date that they have landed on. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions on that or any open discussion on it.
I've done that tour with a bunch of students, and you can't even imagine how devastating it is.
Okay.
And it's very smelly, and I've got, my lungs aren't the strongest, and it took me about 3 days to recover. But it's really important to experience it firsthand as we go into thinking about the swamp and what our recommendations are in terms of how much we're the source of a lot of garbage, as Rebecca was talking about earlier, and as you'll find out. So it's super important.
Okay. Who was that? I'm sorry.
Oh, Lacey. Oh, right. We send it out to members and guests. I'll send it. I'll forward it to you.
Okay. We'll get it to you.
Or maybe just members. Sorry.
Okay. Yep. The next up, we've got a notice that PS 133 is doing a native plant sale on June 14th from 10 a.m. to 1. So essentially that's at 389 Butler Street between 4th Ave and Gregory Place. So they've got Astra milkweed, Virginia creeper, dogbane, hyssop, black-eyed Susans, etc. So it seems like a lot of great stuff, and it is supporting the PTA at PS 133. So wonderful activity. Also, Wendy Frank from the Manhattan SWAB sent us something about the Hudson River Music Festival. They're trying to do a zero waste music festival, and they're looking for volunteers. I think that is also June 14th, but they also need people Friday before for prep and the Sunday after for breakdown. So if anybody is so inclined to see how a zero waste music festival is going to be taking place, please reach out via that email that we sent around from Brooklyn SWAB about how you might take part in that. And I think with that, what I'd like to do is open up the floor for any other comments or information about events that they'd like to share or topics that they'd like to discuss. Oh, Debbie, sure, yeah. If you want to share anything on Surfrider?
I was just, I meant to write something about this, but it got erased. Surfrider does bacteria water testing at Rockaway Beach. They do it all year round, unlike the city. The city does not test year round. So I just wanted to, if anybody surfs or swims out, around there, you can check up on the bacteria levels with that link. And they say they check it every 2 weeks, but it looks more like they've been doing it like once a month. But
Okay.
The city won't start publishing that data for any of the waterways, any of the beaches until literally end of June, and then they stop September 1.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
Public health minded, because people are in the water year round.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like to visit the beaches during the summer, so it's good to know that we've got that resource to check it out to see if it's something we really want to do. All right. Anything else? Any other topics or events that we should be aware of? All right. I think that people have shared their upcoming SWAB meetings, just to let people know. The Manhattan SWAB, their next meeting is Wednesday, June 11th. And they talked about Samantha McBride coming. Bronx SWAB is June 25th. Queen SWAB, June 25th as well. So you can take your pick between those two. And we'll be getting together again on July 14th. For our last meeting of the summer. I guess we'll be meeting in September. That's technically summer as well, but it feels like after August, it's not really summer anymore. All right. And with that, unless there's any other final comments, I think that concludes the meeting. Anything else? All right, great. Well, thanks so much, everybody, and have a great rest of the month.
Okay. Thank you.
For those of you who are at Borough Hall, please exit on the Court Street side,
Court Street. Okay.
the opposite side that you came in.
Okay. Thank you.
Wow, how fun.
No
Thanks a
problem.
lot.
See you all next month.